This fourth tutorial is concerning adding monsters to an encounter name. To add monsters to an encounter, you need to have created an encounter name to tag the monsters to, which you probably did on the previous webpage encounter names. If you didn't, go to the encounter names and create one now, then come back to this encounter monster screen to start adding monsters to it. The first thing you need to do to add monsters to an encounter is select the encounter you want to tag monsters to. I'm going to select the encounter name I made from the last tutorial, First Orc Patrol, Nighttime. Immediately below the selection you just made is the challenge meter, or as my fellow game masters like to call it, the defo meter. You'll see some numbers appear on the meter. On the lower left is 0, the starting point before any monsters have been added to the encounter. The center of the meter is equivalent to the player challenge. The player challenge total is just to the right of the meter. This player challenge total is made up of all the character levels in the character group, divided by 4. Each included character level is counted as 1/4. Therefore, a single 4th level character is equivalent to a player challenge of 1. This player challenge total directly correlates to the monster's challenge stats. Don't let the math confuse you, as the meter will help game masters figure out the difficulty of an encounter, if math isn't your thing. The current character group we have plugged in, minus Plavius, is a character challenge of 1.25. On the lower right of the meter, you'll see another number that is roughly twice the character challenge. This is equivalent to a total party kill, or TPK. Something else you saw appear when you selected the encounter was the monster list on the right side of the screen. This is where you select the monsters you'd like to add to the encounter. Before choosing a monster, you can click on the blue icon that has the white triangle in it. This will open a separate pop-up window so you can see the details of each monster. If you scroll down, you'll see the monster's various narrative fields such as traits, actions, descriptions, and strategies. In the upper right-hand area of the encounter monster screen are a few filters to help you narrow down the list of monsters. This should make it easy for you to find what you're looking for. Name is the default search, and it finds any monsters that have the letters in the monster's name. The other searches are by challenge and by monster's alignment. The search by alignment is similar to the name search. You can just type in part of an alignment, like good, and all the monsters that have good in their alignment will show up. If you want to be specific for an alignment search, try typing in chaotic neutral. This will retrieve monsters for that specific alignment only. You can also type in the word unaligned or any. Let's switch back to the name search and type in orc. You'll see 6 different orc choices show up. The standard SRD choice and 5 other orc types. As time goes by, you'll be seeing more and more creatures added to the system as I expand and add monsters from the Narsa campaign. Let's choose an orc from the Narsa campaign, a brown orc. Before we add brown orcs to this encounter, let's take a quick look at its details. You'll see all the information you need to run an encounter with brown orcs is here. At the bottom of this screen are their traits, actions, a full description of the brown orcs, and some suggested strategies and settings. You can always click into these larger text fields and use the lower right-hand corner to expand the text area if you want to read through the details. Going back to the main screen, let's add 9 brown orcs to this encounter. Just click on the green plus icon and select 9 from the pop-up, then click Confirm. There's a couple of things you'll see right off the bat. The challenge meter is almost completely filled up with red. You'll also see, just to the right of the meter, the monster challenge is up to 2.25. That's a fair bit higher than the player challenge strength of 1.25. This many monsters for this particular group of characters are too strong for the party, unless there are some extenuating circumstances that will help the party survive. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and click the red garbage can icon and remove 4 of the orcs. you'll see the meter has turned yellow and the players and monster challenge numbers are even at 1.25 each. As you add monsters to the encounter, as long as the meter is showing to the left of the meter center, or in the green, the encounter will be an easier encounter for the party. If the meter is dead center, or in the yellow, consider it a challenging encounter, but one the party can likely handle. Anything right of center of the meter will be a difficult challenge or in the red. The closer you get to the lower right of the meter, as you are adding monsters, the more likely some or all of your characters in the group may be incapacitated, captured, or killed by the monsters. You know, I think I want to add one more orc back to this encounter. After all, this is going to be a nighttime encounter with an orc patrol, and that's when the orcs are awake and active. If it turns out I want to make a last-minute decision during gameplay to remove one or two orcs from this encounter, I can do this in two places. Here and the next screen you'll see in the next tutorial, the combat setup screen. I have two last things before I wrap up this tutorial. Here's the first thing. I want to take you into the edit screen for the monsters for this specific encounter. On the left side of the screen, go ahead and click on the blue edit icon next to the first orc on the list. You'll see the edit pop-up screen comes up. The left side of the screen can be changed and saved to the system. The read-only right side of the screen lets you see all of the stats and numbers for an original unedited brown orc. This way, as you edit specific monsters for your encounter, you'll always have a reference to the original creature untouched by any changes. On the left side of the screen, you can make changes to the monsters for this specific encounter. This orc for the nighttime patrol is a little stronger than the others, perhaps a lieutenant type with better armor. I'll make his strength 14 and make his armor ringmail, which bumps up his armor class slightly to 16. Let's give him 2 more hit points as well. I'll also add the word leader in the name field so it's easy to identify him in the system. Now let's click the Save Monster button. Back on the main monster encounter screen, on the list on the left side, you can see the orc with the word leader in front of the word orc, and his hit points have been bumped up to 11. One very, very, very important thing you should do for most of your monsters in your encounters is to give them all unique identifiers in the system with a matching identifier for the tabletop. Here's what I do. I purchase different colored, small-sized hair rubber bands. I found mine at Stuff Mart. They work really good with tabletop minis. If you don't have minis, you can just use numbered paper chits, and your identifiers in the system can be numbers instead of colors. Whatever unique identifier you use for combat, it will go a long way toward keeping track of which orc on your game board belongs to which orc in the system. This simple trick will keep you from fudging combat and hit points, as I have often been forced to do before I employed the simple color or number tracking identifiers. Here's the last thing I have to tell you about, and you're going to love it. It's going to make running combat far easier than you probably ever experienced. Game masters have to juggle an incredible amount of information. To make using this system incredibly easy, I am boiling down most of the text for each monster into summaries. Go ahead and click on the edit icon for the leader orc. Scroll down to the lower half of the edit screen. You'll see the read-only pink area on the right side. This is the place game masters usually have to stop the action during combat so they can go and look up the details of how some skill or ability works for the monster in question. The other choice game masters have is to fudge the combat, knowing that the monster had some skill he couldn't quite remember, but he didn't want to bog down the action looking stuff up. So you can see on the left side of the screen, I extracted from the pink text what I thought would be the orc's main or most used attack, broken down in the Attack 1 section. I also extracted what I thought would be the orc's second most used attack. You'll see this broken down in the Attack 2 section. If your orcs for your encounter would have a different mode of first and second attack types, just go ahead and overwrite these two sections with whatever attack information you want to use for the 2 summary sections. In addition to this, I also created 2 other summary sections, primary special abilities and secondary special abilities. These 2 special ability summary fields will make it easy to see what monsters can do without having to read through paragraphs of information. To demonstrate, let's close the edit screen and find the monster Ettercap. Let's add 1 to this encounter temporarily so you can see the summaries for a creature with a fair amount of information. Click on the edit button for it and scroll to the lower half of the edit screen. You can see that the Ettercap has a fair amount of info. On the left side of the screen, it's summarized into its likely first and second attack methods. Primary special abilities contain its other offensive capabilities it may employ. Secondary special abilities contain its defensive and miscellaneous abilities it may employ. On this particular creature, I had to fudge where I put its core attacks, as it really had 3. Its bite in the attack 1 section, its webbing in the attack 2 section, and its claw attack, which I put first thing in the primary special abilities section. You'll see fudges like this occasionally in the summary fields, as some creatures have many offensive attacks and abilities. If you are using a monster you are not familiar with, you should read through the pink text area so you fully understand its capabilities. This will make it easier for you to grasp the attack and ability summaries when it comes time to execute combat. Be aware I'm still creating these attack and ability summaries, so don't be surprised if they don't exist yet for some of the creatures you tag into encounters. Also, some monsters, especially high-level monsters, have too many attacks and abilities to summarize. Therefore, you'll have to choose and fill in these summary fields based on the flavor of attacks you wish your higher-level monsters to use. For example, vampires have lots of attack and abilities. You may have a vampire that prefers to use specific attacks and abilities over other abilities it has, so go ahead and fill in whatever attacks and abilities you prefer for your specific vampire encounter. The detailed text for each monster will be available during combat if you need to do a quick read, but the summaries will save you lots of time during combat and hopefully allow combat to plow forward quickly as an exciting, unfolding combat scenario. And that's it. Go ahead and add monsters to your encounter now. Then click the edit button for your monsters and manipulate the encounter data on the left side of the edit screen however you would like for your particular encounters.